Welcome to episode 6 of Wine with HR. If you tuned into our last episode, you got to meet Kyler Banks from Bamboo HR, and we had a great discussion about talent acquisition and how to make sure that your hiring process actually gets you the qualified candidates that you need and want. So, in this episode, we're going to continue that discussion by talking about how you can retain those qualified candidates through using total rewards.
So, we're going to discuss what total rewards is for those of you who don't know, what it looks like today, and where people see it going in the future so that you can actually start planning where you want to go as a company now. But first, in the present, wine. So, Jules, what are you drinking today?
I am back to my Italian whites. So I had another bottle left from that wine tasting event that I went to a few months ago. So this one is called, I'm guessing here, but I think it's called Melvira. And it is, I can't actually, that's the name of the winery. I can't actually pronounce the name of the wine, but it is Roro Arnis. That's just what I'm going to say it is. Anyway, as you can see, for those of you who are watching us, you can see it's a lovely straw colored yellow. For those of you who are listening, that's why I'm describing it. So, the story of this winery is really cool. So, I wanted to read you a little bit from their website. So, this is a 3-generation old winery. And when Giuseppe, not an Italian name at all, De Monte started to produce wine in the 50s, he had a dream, which I love this. Trisha, you're going to love this because it's so like artistic. It's a very artistic phrase. To bottle the soul of the land that he loved, to be discovered sip by sip.
Oh my gosh, I love that so
Yes.
much.
Right? I knew you would. So, in the mid 70s, the company was renamed Malvira after the name of an old 19th century building that was located in the center of Canale. That became the headquarter of the winery. So, the peculiar name refers to the exposure of the courtyard, which usually faced north instead of south, as rural tradition prescribed. Anyway, that's a little bit about the story. But then the other cool part is that they started using tarot cards as their labels or as the inspiration for their labels. So,
That's so
again,
cool.
I know for those of you who are joining us on video, you can see it's a very cool logo. For those of you who are only listening to us, it is the Page of Cups combined with some grape leaves and some grapevines and just some other cool imagery. So, just a really kind of cool vibe that I'm getting from this winery. And this bottle was only $20, so it's not super expensive, and it does have the DOCG label, which in short, that means I did learn this when I was in Italy. It means that they have to meet all sorts of requirements to be able to put that label on their wine. So there's like purity standards and organic standards and all sorts of other things. So super cool. So anyway, getting to that wine itself, it tastes less citrusy than what I typically drink, which is okay. It's you can definitely taste like some grass, little bit of lemon, but not like super citrusy, and probably apples and pears is what I'm guessing. But it's very smooth. It's not super acidic. Very light on the palate. Would go great with, again, vegetarian dishes, cheese. Oh yes, the cheese. Caprese in particular, if you had some caprese salad or sandwiches or something like that. Trish, what are you drinking?
Well, I actually had a really cool wine picked out. I bought it last week. I was super excited to share it with everyone. And then Will and I drank it. So As I was thinking, man, I need to do something, I grabbed another standard that I think this is one that everybody can easily afford and will like. It's, of course, layer cake, right? It's another one that most people will love. It's very, it's consistent. They always have, great wines for the price. And here, Julie, I thought of you when I was reading this label, by the way. A richly layered wine. You smell an intense bouquet and taste a diversity of flavors that unfold on the palate with every sip. Now, that's part of all of Layer Cake's bottling. They always say that. But here's the good part. Our Chardonnay has delicate aromas of Meyer lemons, wet stones. Uh-huh. See, I knew you'd love that. And a hint of lime blossoms. The palette is layered with a tropical flavor such as kaffir lime. I'm not sure exactly how to say that. I think it's kaffir. Um, Guava and pineapple with a light creamy texture of whipped lemon curd to finish.
Oh my, that sounds like
Ah,
dessert.
I, and you would think it was sweet based on that. It is not overly sweet. It's so far, like my first couple of sips, have been really delicious as I was sipping while you were talking.
Trisha, also while you're sipping, you have to tell us about this snazzy new hat you have on.
What? You mean this hat?
That hat.
So, for everybody who is just listening and not looking, of course, you got a full frontal view of my Wine with HR hat. That almost sounded very risque, didn't it?
Yes.
A full frontal view of the hat. Julie, shame on you. I did get to do my official opening. Julie was amazing and sent me my new Wine with HR hat, a Monarch Endeavors shirt, and of course, again, for those of you who can see us, I am also sporting one of our fancy Wine with HR sparkly wine glasses today. So if you want to laugh at me trying to do the whole hey, look at me, I'm a pretend influencer thing, watch my unveiling on our Patreon account. For those of you that don't follow us yet, make sure you go there because this is one that'll just make you laugh and roll your eyes.
One more thing on that, on the Patreon note and on our merchandise, we have some special items that we have added for Pride Month. So we're excited about those, and all of the proceeds from all of the profit from those particular sales will go to the Trevor Project. So we're going
I
to make a
ordered
donation.
today.
Yay! Yay! So, so people have that to look forward to, and of course, we'll have links on all of our social media sites and on our website and all that good stuff. So, okay,
Perfect.
so now that we got all that out of the way, Trish, tell us about the WHINE of this episode.
Well, as we mentioned, our wine this episode is about total rewards. I'm going to start off with an article that, of course, as always, we will have linked in the show notes. This one is from AIHR. The article is What is a Total Reward Strategy? A Practical Guide. And here's what they say. They define total rewards as a coordinated effort driven by an organization's overall business strategy to develop a workforce motivated towards excellence and growing with the organization. I love that, with the organization, because we all want to grow in the same direction, and an effective and inclusive rewards package. The package is a combination of all the benefits, the perks, the incentives, guidelines, processes, programs, and other types of rewards that an employer offers to its workers. Then they go on to say an effective total rewards strategy enables organizations to improve business performance and achieve desired results through an engaged, satisfied workforce. Julie, now you know where I got the title.
Yes, the total eclipse of the perks.
Perks. Not quite the way I think it was originally worded, but I think it
Yeah,
works.
yeah, yeah. Hey, you always gotta love bringing that song in because at
I mean,
least those of us of a certain age,
right. And other people out there going, what song is
yeah.
that?
What are they talking about? Yeah, that's probably with most of the songs that we choose, but that's okay. Um, so you're welcome that that only had a very short snippet of singing.
Yeah, that's a tough one to sing.
Well, and one of the reasons that we wanted to talk about the total rewards package is because Kyler had made some great points in our last episode about when we were talking about how to make it obvious to people all what the benefit of all the benefits you are providing is. So, like attaching dollar amounts to those when you can. And then for those smaller businesses that maybe can't compete with salaries that are at market value or above market, it can give you a lot of ways to still offer a lot of benefits that are really important to candidates. Without having to spend a lot of money. So some of these are things that don't require any money at all, just time. Other parts of them are things that that do require money, but there are lots of degrees within that, which is what that quote from that article is saying. Like it works with your organization, it can grow with your organization. You don't have to start off offering everything across the board, or the most that you possibly could in everything across the board. So it's a strategy that can help you grow. So, what exactly are we talking about? The total reward strategy has five components. Those are compensation, of course, because everybody needs to get paid. Benefits, uh,
Please pay me,
yes, right.
please.
Right. Small request.
Yeah, yeah.
So, compensation, benefits, well being, recognition, and development. So, we're going to talk about each more of these in turn. But again, just a quick reminder that it's going to be different for every company based on some of the things we've talked about in other episodes and just last episode, like what your mission is, what your core values are, what you are able to do, not able to do, where you are in the market against your competitors, all of those factors. So, we are going to kind of talk about all of that as we talk about this, each of these particular factors. And we just want to keep reminding you that this is unique to your company. And that's kind of the beauty of it because you can make it what you need it to be.
I think that's one of the great things about I actually, after we had our conversation with Kyler, I went back to Bamboo's site and I found the PDF that he was referencing. And it's so easy, y'all. In order to download this, all you have to do is enter a little bit of information and then it's a free download. It is on my desktop right now because I was like, this is amazing. So we will put a link again, as always, to that particular spot on Bamboo's website, so that you could also download this, for reference now and also, of course, in the future.
Hey, also, Trish, just
Yeah.
FYI, I also created a Google link to make it even easier for them. It's in the show notes from last episode.
What? Look
Yeah,
at you. You're
I'm
amazing.
I'm fancy.
You are fancy. All right, well, I'm gonna get fancy with some stats. Um, and I'm also going to start us off with the fourth one Julie mentioned, which is recognition. Recognition is one of my absolute favorites when it comes to total rewards. It's because I really think that it is an exceptionally important part of helping someone feel valued, help them feel engaged, want to do better. And also, of course, it really meets this. the only thing I think of is intrinsic need that we all have. Whether you are a person that is like me and someone gives you recognition, you stand up and you're like taking a bow and saying you'll sign autographs, or whether you're a person that prefers an atta girl or an atta boy because if they call you out in the middle of a meeting, you're going to hide under a desk. Like I get it. There's so many different ways. But it is still important, and it is important for us as managers, as owners, as C-suite, as whomever, to know that each one of your employees does want this recognition, but they all may want it in a different way. Now, here's a really, really cool thing. All right, so Gallup, we love our Gallup polls, and WorkHuman. They combined to do this study, and once again, it will be in the show notes. And here's what they said: recognition that is fulfilling, authentic, equitable, embedded in your company culture, and personalized to the individual is critical for cultivating an environment where both employees and the business thrive. Then they went on to say, and this is so, so cool. By making recognition an important part of your company's culture, a 10,000 person organization with an already engaged workforce can save up to, are you ready for this number? $16.1 million annually due to reduced employee turnover. Like we're always talking about keeping your employees, retention, how to avoid turnover. This is such a simple, simple thing that really doesn't cost you anything. So then they went on to say, because I have to keep going with this because it's so amazing. Globally, again, going global, 1 in 4 employees in Gallup's database strongly agree that they have received recognition or praise for doing good work in the last week. So 1 in 4, that is really great. I was pretty stoked about that stat. I wish it was higher, but still, 1 in 4. That's a good start. But here's where they went with that. They found that if the medium businesses in their database doubled that number who strongly agree, so going from 1 to 2 people, that's all we're talking about, right? If they doubled that, then their business would see a 9% improvement in productivity, a 22% decrease in safety incidents, and a 22% decrease in absenteeism. Now, those are some okay numbers, not bad, but let me tell you how that converts into dollars. 91,989,474 in gained employee productivity. $2,807,200 gained due to a decrease in injuries, and $3,801,336 due to fewer unscheduled absences. Come on, Jules, can you believe? Like, listen to those numbers, and it costs you nothing.
Yeah, or minimal, depending how
Oh,
robust you want your
correct.
recognition program to be.
Correct.
But I think what it shows is, and I mean, they're using a big company, a 10,000 person
Of
organization,
course.
but I think what it shows you is even to your point, a 9% improvement in productivity or a 22% decrease in safety incidents can lead to really big gains. And that's amazing.
Exactly.
Just by
Exactly.
telling people they're doing a good job.
It's just, oh, go figure. And what do we always preach? Kindness. And
Yeah.
and what does that sign say behind you, Jules?
Don't be a dick.
That's exactly right. Hey, Jules, I actually think I want to table this because I know that I could talk on this for another half hour, 45 minutes, maybe, because you know me, I talk a lot. And I really, really want to focus on how we can use this time to create some meaningful and authentic recognition so that we can have our listeners really think about how they could link this one idea of recognition to all of their business strategies. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's great. I think it deserves an episode of its own because, like you said, there's so many directions you could go with recognition.
Yeah,
And that's one of the cool parts. And again, some of those will cost you nothing. And even the most robust will probably cost you very little compared
right.
to what the other things you spend your money on. But the return could be exponential. So I think that's great. I think we will
Perfect.
table this until next episode and pick it back up and get deeper into it.
Oh, see, now y'all have to tune into the next episode.
To be continued.
Well, where do you want to go next then, Jules?
Well, talk about let's talk about compensation because it is the first thing that people want to know. Of course, they all want
Yeah.
to know how much money am I going to make? What's my potential for growth? Whatever. And we'll talk about
Mhm.
development in a little bit. But I think we have a tendency to think about compensation just as the salary or the base rate that somebody is being paid, and that's not always the case. There could be other things. So there could obviously be bonuses or commissions. Those are typically reserved for sales people, but they could be applied to other positions as well. Some of the things that I like that I've seen companies do is that they have bonuses that are based both on individual contributions, team contributions, and company performance as a whole. And that's a really cool thing to do because it fosters a community of collaboration and that you're all on the same team working towards the same goal versus like pitting people against each other. Like if there's only enough bonus money to go around, then people might start to sabotage each other or do some of those other things. But if it's like, hey, if this team reaches this goal, here's what they could get. And
I
if the
love that.
company does this, then they could get X.
Yes.
And I think that that's a better mind frame. So that's something to think about. Some other things that could be included are shift differentials. Those are pretty common. Recognition awards, so actual money that comes with the recognition that we'll talk about next week. On-call pay and equity pay. So those are all some things that could come into the mix. So again, just thinking about the fact that it's not always just that salary that you put on the offer letter. It could include a lot of other things. There's also like deferred compensation. I mean, you could get like super complicated with this because there's deferred comp, there's variable compensation, there's stock options, there's all sorts of other things. And if you need advice on that sort of stuff, we're going to direct you to a CPA because it ain't going to be us.
Now me.
Yeah, Trisha
Now
started
me.
talking finances and drank a whole bottle of wine, so it's definitely not going to be her.
Well, it wasn't me. It was Will and me.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, we're both lawyers, so we can't do math. So don't come to us for
Yeah.
financial advice.
No,
So
there's a
just
reason we went into
disclaimer.
law.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So there are the point is compensation is not just that base salary. There's a lot of other things that can go into it. And I would encourage you to think about what are the ways that you can reward people with some additional comp that are really meaningful to them. One other thing that just popped into my head is a lot of times it's easier for companies to give bonuses because then it can be tied to company performance or individual performance or whatever, and they don't have to shell out the money up front. But something to think about if you do offer bonuses that are given out once a year, is there any way to do it quarterly? Or is there any way to split the difference and give them a bit of a higher um, hourly rate or salary so that they have more money available to them during the year? Because that's a big thing for people. Like the economy isn't great and people feel strapped. And grocery prices are higher, everything is costing more money. And so, if you can put more money in people's pockets now, that could be seen as a huge thing, even if you're taking something away on the back end. So, those are also some things to think about as you're going through this is what are your employees really facing right now? Are they struggling? And what could you possibly do to alleviate that? And if there is anything that you can do, you might want to consider it.
Especially when you think about the fact that those bonuses are taxed at what, 50% or something ridiculous?
It's usually, I believe, don't quote me, it's like a flat 35%, which most people
Okay.
don't get that taxed on their normal. So the point is, you are correct. It is significantly higher because it's a
Yeah.
lump sum versus what they would get taxed on a regular paycheck.
Yeah. So if you, I mean, how amazing would that be to be able to move it into part of their normal pay, and like you were saying, increase their hourly or do some other things instead. I think that's a wonderful, wonderful way to look at it. You already mentioned development, so I'll skip development and leave that for you. You know what? I'm going to go to benefits and well-being. I'm going to put those two together because I think it makes sense to talk about them together. So when we're talking about your traditional benefits, you're, of course, you guys are all going, well, duh. It's your health insurance, right? It's dental, vision, maybe a retirement plan, which hopefully there is one, and even paid time off. When we're talking about the well-being initiatives, we're looking at something that goes beyond that traditional approach. And these are the things that you have heard Julie and I say again and again and again, really can send a strong message about the culture that you truly desire and the values of your company. So for this section, a really great article, and again, we'll reference it in the show notes, is a Forbes article that I found that talks about the future of benefits and total rewards and how they actually are going to outshine salary. And I think this one is really cool because they talk about some things that I've never really thought about before, which is ridiculous. At work perks. So, benefits that are available while they're in the office. So, maybe there's different commuter benefits for those who actually have to come in the office. We were talking about this before, ways to make those that cannot have a more flexible schedule or do not have the option to work from home. So, you provide additional benefits for them. Free meals, snacks. I love snacks. Everybody knows. On-site wellness classes. And then they mentioned, of course, on-site childcare, which again would be amazing. And I understand that we for a lot of companies that out there, you're like, yeah, you're reaching for the stars on that one. But hey, if we don't try to reach for the stars, where are we going to end up? So definitely one that I would want to include. Then we're talking also about what they call lifestyle spending accounts. They mention in this article anything that involves your physical health and wellness, but not just your physical health and wellness, your mental and emotional wellness as well. Um, Things like your social well-being. And you really need to get creative and thinking about now, how could we address this? Could we help our employees with any sort of education, for example? Or maybe if they're facing challengers, maybe there's something I've heard of a couple of places that I've worked with where, especially like teachers, I know that teachers do this, and I think this is so cool. When teachers start off, they don't have a lot of time off. And as you get further and further in your teaching career, you get more and more time. So they have this thing where older teachers, older meaning those who have been there longer, not necessarily in age, they can actually donate some of their time off to those who are newer in the industry. So I just think that's fantastic. That is a great way to help people who are currently meeting a challenge and don't have the time off that they would want to use. People could donate 4 hours, 8 hours, whatever it is. So something like that. We've mentioned numerous times flexible scheduling. Obviously, it's one of our favorites. The goal here always is work-life balance. So whether we're talking about completely remote work or some sort of a hybrid work situation, obviously that is always going to help your employees and their well-being. But don't forget, I think we discussed last year, and I can't remember for sure, there was a really great, again, another big study that was done on the 4-day work week and how really, even though people went to a 4-day work week, not only did they stay the same as far as productivity, they actually increased their productivity because there was less time for that kind of sit around and wondering and thinking about other stuff. People were motivated, they were excited to have that time off, and because that they had that time off, they had that ability to refresh and then come back from work and they are ready to run. Last couple that I'll throw in here, talking about benefits and traditional benefits, and then more of our well-being benefits. Um, don't forget about the fringe benefits. You may or may not be able to offer these, but it's also great to think about for now and in the future. Childcare support, retirement planning, upskilling, always one of my favorites. Again, a couple of these are going to go, you're going to hear about them in multiple areas as Julie and I are talking, but tuition reimbursement is another one of those fringe benefits we've already mentioned. We'll talk about it again. And then those recognition programs. And yes, as promised, our next episode will fully delve into that.
Yeah, a couple things I was thinking as you were talking, Trish. One is with the commuter benefits, especially if you are a company that promotes sustainability or use of public resources. If you could offer public transit vouchers or credits or bus passes, whatever the case may be, wherever you live, that might be a cool thing to encourage people to take public transportation versus driving their automobiles.
Shout
Another,
out to the Rapid in Cleveland.
yeah, yeah.
I used to take it all the time.
Yep. Another thing that I've seen some companies do, which is a little bit of a switch, there's a lot of companies that will offer a gym membership to a particular gym, and that's great. But I had a client who was doing that and was realizing that there weren't a lot of people taking advantage of it. And so we talked that through, and I suggested, why don't you take the value of that and just make it a reimbursement so that people can do whatever fitness sort of thing they like? Like I like boxing, so I'm not going to go join an Anytime Fitness because I can't box
Nope.
there. So, but if I could take that, whatever it is, $200 a year and apply it to my membership, that's awesome. That's a perk that I didn't, wouldn't really think of an employer giving me. So they did
Yeah,
that and they ended up getting a lot more people that took advantage of that program. And they didn't make
that's
it hard.
awesome.
They were just like, you send us your reimbursement slip and, you only get up to X number of dollars. So you're not paying for somebody who wants to belong to five different things or go boxing where it costs, more than $200 a year. So, but that's like,
Yeah.
that's kind of a cool thing that you wouldn't think about.
Yeah.
Couple other ones I've heard that people may not think about is pet insurance.
Oh, yes,
Offering pet
yes.
insurance because there are a lot of people who uh, maybe don't have human children, but have, furry children. And
I
then
was at
there
the
are
vet this
also
morning.
right, exactly. And then there are also a lot of people who have both human children and furry children. But pet insurance is something that is could be hugely beneficial, even if you don't pay for it entirely, but you could get a discount program. Like that's great. So those again are easy things where it's not a lot out of the company's pocket because maybe it is just a discount program or a reimbursement and you're controlling those costs, but it's something that is of benefit to those employees that they couldn't otherwise get at that same price, right? Um, the
Love
last
it.
thing I want to say is on the mental and physical health. Talk to your healthcare insurance providers or your broker because a lot of times they will do that programming for you free.
Yes. Yes.
They will do sessions on mental health, on physical health, on they'll do health fairs where people can come in and get their blood pressure checked and their temperature checked, that donate blood, like all sorts of things. And it's all part of what you're paying them. So I would definitely use that as a resource.
And I think that a lot of them also have access to discounts that we don't, like through other like meditation apps
Yep.
and things like that. I think that they can also get a pretty significant discount if you go through them to get those apps. So that's an awesome idea.
Yeah, and then on childcare, this is just a rant of mine, but I do not understand why we have not yet changed the school day to match the work day. Like, this makes no sense to me. And
No.
I don't even have children, so it doesn't affect me, but it makes no sense to me. Like, we require people to pay for hours and hours of childcare every year when if we just change the day to match,
Huh.
you know? And that was all started because of farming, because kids had to get home and do the chores before
Mhm.
daylight ended. Like, it's not, and that's why summers were off because it was the work time. Like, it doesn't even make sense anymore for the
Nope.
vast majority of the population, yet we still do it. So, this is a lesson about what we always say. Are you doing it because it's the way it's always been done, or are you doing it because it makes the most sense? Well, this is one of those situations where we're doing it because it's the way it's always been done. Somebody out there hear me and legislate something different, please. Okay,
I love
rant
that so
over.
much.
Okay, rant over. Sorry. Okay.
You do bring up some really good points, though, and that is think outside the box. Why
Hmm.
are you doing it because you were always told that this is the way you did it, or you should do it, or this is the way you have to do it? I don't think we're there anymore. One of the things we're going to talk about when we look at the future is really customizing things for your employees. And so going to what you were saying, let's start thinking about what each individual employee wants, what they need, and where they're going to find the most value. Because look, Julie and I probably are going to find the value in a lot of the same things. But there are things that we won't find that are the same. We have friends that, have children and they would find a different type of value. So I think really looking at your employees and saying to them, what is important to you? What could we do that would make you feel recognized, that would be a benefit for you versus just a one size fits all approach? Because that's not going to work anymore.
Right. And we talked a little bit about that on our first episode of the season when we were talking about
Yep.
what the future holds. And the example I remember most clearly is with financial planning and how the different generations have different goals right now. So your Gen Zs and your millennials might be saving up for a house, or they might just be trying to pay off school loans, or they might be looking, to rent a different apartment or something like that. Where your Gen Xers and your boomers are looking for, hey, we're getting close to retirement. We need to get things shored up. And then your Gen Xers also have that added layer of possibly probably having to take care of a parent that is ailing and dealing with that whole financial situation. So you can offer different things to your different groups of employees that all fall kind of under the same umbrella of, in that particular example, financial wellness. So there's like so much you can do. So I wouldn't be afraid or think that, well, we have to offer the same, like as Trisha was just saying, a one size fits all. You're never going to find it. So just keep experimenting until you find the things that people are responding to. I think one of the other, and I swear I'll get to development, but now my brain's just full of ideas. The other benefit that I think is really great is potentially adding support groups. And again, you might be able to do this with somebody from your health care provider or your health insurance provider, but you could also just offer it and ask for volunteers. because there are probably people that are going through the same sort of thing at the workplace. And to make it just a casual, they could be off-site. It doesn't have to be where people can see them, but maybe it's like a once a month there's a lunch for people who have aging parents who are having health issues, or there's uh, a lunch for people who have recently lost a spouse, or there's you could have different types of support groups that people could really benefit from that will help the mental health, will help the physical health, but can be done in a way that's not making them completely vulnerable or feeling like they're sharing too much with the people at work. So that's just another idea that came into my head because I think support groups are a great resource for people who are going through something difficult. The the value of finding somebody who understands what you are experiencing is invaluable.
And anyone and everyone who's been listening to our podcast can see that in the way you and I talk to one another, just about both of us supporting our aging parents.
Mhm.
And I don't know what I would do if I didn't have you to get mushy.
I know. Back at you.
Ah. So
Okay.
there you go.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay. So now we'll get to development. So, development. We have talked about this in prior seasons, but probably not to this depth. But the goal is to create opportunities for your employees to grow, learn, and develop their skills both personally and professionally in their current position, of course, but also for those positions they may want to get to. And I think that both of those are really key because we have spoken before about how there are certain positions where there is no upward mobility. There just isn't. And if you have somebody in that position, it doesn't mean that they don't want to develop their skills, that they don't want to grow professionally and personally. It just means there isn't a new title for them to achieve within the company. So we want to be mindful of that, and we want to keep them enriched and engaged, and we want them to know that they matter to us. And the way we show that is by saying, even though there's no upward mobility, we still want you to be learning and growing with us, and we want you to teach us things. So, what do you want to do? And they probably have ideas about things they would want to learn. And that can be part of their goal setting in their performance evaluation at the end of the year. That could be part of separate goal setting, whatever their learning and development plan, however you do that within your company. You want to make sure that you're not overlooking that because the position doesn't allow for advancement. Because development is not tied to advancement. It can be, but it does not have to be. And everybody wants to develop and everybody wants to, okay, I shouldn't say everyone, but most people want to develop, and most people would appreciate the company saying, we see something in you, we care enough to invest in you to pay for up to whatever it is. And it could vary by the level of position. Obviously, it should go up the more responsibility somebody has. So it might be $500 for somebody who's um, an administrative assistant, and it might be $5,000 for somebody who's a CEO or a CFO or a COO. It can vary depending on the responsibility level, but there should be some development budget for every single employee. So that could include things like company sponsored workshops, online courses, in person training, tuition reimbursement, which we talked about. Again, typically it needs to be related to their current position or a future position that they are being groomed for. Reimbursement for self-development training. So that could be more on the personal side of things, but if it helps them with, say, communication, feedback, initiative, assertiveness, like all of those things, and you can make sure that it ties into their professional goals. Like, how is this learning this personal development going to help you professionally? So you can tie it in that way so that it all comes together. Leadership development programs, those can be internal. They don't need to cost a thing. It's just identifying future leaders. We have talked about that in the past. There are some caveats with that. Really easy for bias to come into play here because people will see those folks through the halos and the horns and they're going to pick their favorites. The affinity bias is going to come in, all those things we've talked about. So you got to be careful how you develop it, but that can be really powerful as well, because if you are tapping somebody and saying, hey, we see you as a future leader, that's a great retention tool. Of course they're going to stick around, but you got to follow through, because if you don't, it's just words. Mentorship, we've talked a lot about mentorship programs in the past, and those can be valuable for both the mentor and the mentee. Sometimes, again, you may not be able to promote somebody because there isn't a position available for them, but if you make them a mentor, again, that is you saying to them, we value your knowledge and expertise and experience so much that we are asking you to show our newer people how it's done. And that's really cool. And then the last thing is individual growth plans. So everybody should have one. It shouldn't be
These are my favorite, and they're
right.
so undervalued and so
Yep.
underused.
Hmm. Yeah, plans are great. You can adjust them, but as long as somebody knows the direction they're supposed to be moving in and what benchmarks they're supposed to be hitting, it is so much easier, as Trisha and I have said, to have those difficult conversations when somebody's missing the mark because you've already said, hey, here's what we said you were going to do. You're falling short on X, Y, and Z. Yet you're still asking to be promoted. Well, you got to show us that you can do these things first. It makes all of those conversations easier. It also makes it easier from the employee standpoint to know exactly what they need to do and to meet those requirements.
Exactly, exactly. And I think also when we're talking about these, the cool part is that these can be tied to the growth of the company as well, so that people feel like, oh, I'm a part of that growth. I can see where my individual growth plan actually impacts the overall company growth plan. That way, on those days where they feel like a cog in the machine or don't see why what they do matters, they can kind of reflect on that and be like, oh, right, okay, this is what I'm doing and this is what it's for and this is how I am making a change that's helping. For me, that I think that that's always huge is to know like what kind of a difference am I making? And that's why I love the growth plan so much is it's not just helping the person grow from this respect, but it's also helping them to see their value to the company.
Yeah, and you just gave me an idea, Trish. So I'm
Ooh.
gonna I'm gonna copyright and trademark this as I'm saying it because I don't think I've actually seen a company do it. But
Uh-oh.
I think it would be really cool if a company developed a development committee that was comprised of both leaders that currently exist and employees, sort of like safety committees are supposed to have both, the people that are out there every day doing the work and also the leaders,
Right.
because I think that we don't often think about how does the company need to develop going further? Where are the gaps? And we have talked about that in prior episodes where we've talked about forecasting where the growth opportunities are or where you're going to have some gaps. Like, hey, this is a skill gap that we have. How are we going to fill it? But if you had a development committee that had employees and leaders on it, that's a great way to tap into those people who, because we talk about internal marketing all the time, which companies forget about a lot. Like when they post a job, they post it out to the world, but they forget to tell all their current employees, hey, we're looking for this, right?
Bizarro to me. Like
Yeah, yeah,
every time I'm like, what?
right, right. But there could very well be somebody sitting in your company right now who's like, this is a danger coming up for us. Like, this is a spot we are missing completely, and we need people to fill that. And I would be willing to take that on. And so I think that that's just an idea that popped in my head as you were talking. So I give you credit too. It's our idea, but we're trademarking
Love
it.
it.
So if you start a developmental committee, company development committee, we're coming after you. Just kidding.
No,
do
tell us
it, and
how
tell
it
us how it
goes. Do
goes.
it. Exactly.
Stereo.
Well, sometimes we may or may not share a brain.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
yeah, yeah.
Most of
Yeah.
the time, I feel like I'm like, oh, I'm catching up. Yay, that's a great idea.
So again, just closing the development loop, you should have a growth plan for each and every employee. You can have one for your team, you can have one for your department, and you can have one for your company. But you should be pushing everybody to continue to develop both their personal and professional skills. And with that, I'm going to let Trisha take us into the future.
I want to go back to the future.
Again, a reference half of the people listening probably don't get. Check out
No,
the
they
movie.
have
It's
to know
great.
that one.
I know. It's
They
great. You
have
got
to
to
know
check it
that
out.
one. So actually, when Julie and I were having our discussion about where to go, and we both kind of focused, we loved what Kyler was saying about this idea of these types of benefits, the total rewards benefits. And then randomly, there was this SHRM article, because I feel like every episode we have to reference a SHRM article. There was a SHRM article that talked about these kind of benefits and then the way it would look in the future. And it's what I've referenced already as we were talking, but I think one of my favorite things that they talked about was about more customization. Um, Here's the thing. Your employees are used to downloading an app and being able to say, I like this, I want to do this, I want to see this, I don't want to see that, right?
Or for the super techie people creating their own app.
Oh my gosh, right. All right, can't even go there right now. And so when you think about it, your employees are going to start demanding that you do that as well in the future. So they're going to want to customize everything towards what it is that is most important to them. And that could be, we've already talked about pay, right? It could be the way that they're paid. Like Julie said, you may have people that are like, I don't want a bonus. Give it to me every week or bi-weekly or monthly, however you pay in my paycheck. That actually would be a much better solution for me. Or someone else might say, listen, I don't need this particular insurance benefit because I'm not there yet. I don't have kids or I don't have parents to look after. So for me, I would like to do this. And so they are really, really focused. They talk about it a bit in this article and then some other articles that I was reading about really focusing on the individual and asking them, oh my gosh, Julie, here we go, having a conversation with your employees, asking them, huh, what's important to them? I mean, goes back to how many times have we said this and how many episodes?
Just a few. Just a
Just a
few.
few. Yeah, yeah. The other one that we have to mention is, of course, more technology. AI, you guys will play an important role here because AI is going to be able to do some predicting when it comes to growth. AI will be able to help when it comes to looking at an individual's what they make, either versus hourly or yearly or something like that, and see how that could help. AI can predict, and again, I use predict loosely. Please, people out there going, no way. Don't judge me too harshly. I'm just using this as kind of a generality. They can predict like what's going to be important or where some different impacts may be. And so it can help you. But I want to say again, I read something. This is a total aside, Jules. You're going to crack up. But I saw this LinkedIn thing came to me yesterday, and this company completely got rid of their HR department. And they thought it was a great idea because HR was the middleman and was creating, yeah, creating separation between the employees and management. And I thought, oh, honey, like you have no idea what HR does. And in one of these articles that we're linking y'all to, there's a thing that says like it's like under 30% of companies actually believe that their managers are capable, yeah, capable of having these conversations with their employees. And so now you're talking about killing HR. I was just like, no. So do not worry. The whole point of this rant was AI is not going to take over. It's going to need strong HR professionals behind it. And also, please, for the love of God, understand that managers, we love you and your lack of training is not your fault, it's ours. But the idea of getting rid of an HR department and putting all of these conversations that we talk about all the time onto your shoulders, you don't want to have them. You're not trained to have them, and we really don't want you to have them either. So, all right. So rant over. Last thing to talk about with the future of Total Rewards is they actually are predicting that they're going to be specialized leaders in this. Like, this is how important. Think about all of the different things that we've discussed and how each one of them interplays with your own business strategy. Now, think about your business strategy, and each one of the things Julie and I talked about today is going to impact or somehow relate to those business strategies. And so you are going to have a leader that is mm, capable of looking at the data, right? And then using that data to drive change or drive understanding. You have to have that experience leadership. And so it's going to be really interesting to me for those of you out there who are like, ooh, where do I grow next? Notice I said grow next instead of go next.
Yeah.
This might be a really wonderful a place to go.
Well, and one of the things I was thinking about as you were talking is that AI could be a great development opportunity for people because you are going to need people who understand AI and who
Yes.
understand how it should be used in your organization. So that could be a way to tap some people that maybe wouldn't have advancement opportunities otherwise. So
I
think
love
about that,
that.
right?
I love
Um,
that.
and then just on the data, just from a personal standpoint, I want to say, when I was younger, I hated data because I just felt like it was a way to show that we didn't meet the mark or we didn't,
Mhm.
we fell short somehow. And so I just didn't want to see it. I didn't want to know. I didn't want it like just, keep me in the dark. Now, of course, Trisha and I love data. And we talk all the time about how HR needs to find metrics to measure because most people rely on data. They want to see the data. And so it is really important. And so if you can make yourself comfortable, if you're like me and you're like, I don't want to know, I don't care, I don't, whatever, make yourself care. Like start to see how it can really impact decisions and how it can make the company better, how it can make you better, how it can, make your department better, your team better, whatever the case may be. But I agree. I think that's where the opportunities are going to lie in. We have so much information coming at us all the time now. It's going
Mhm.
to be the opportunity is going to be for those people who can filter out what is important from all of that information that is coming at us so quickly and figure out what to do with it and how to make it work for the company. Those are going to be the key people. And that doesn't necessarily go with a particular position or a particular experience level or education level or anything like that. It goes with your ability to foresee and to like forecast. what is potentially going to happen. And that could apply to anybody. So that's like an open opportunity field that I think we're just starting to get into because it can get overwhelming really fast. And there is a tendency of a lot of people to say, we're not even going there. Like, we're just going to keep doing things the way we've been doing things because it
Yeah,
seems to be working just fine, but it's not going to work forever, not the way that our society is changing. So take advantage of those opportunities, like, so to the employees who are listening out there, one of the things I would encourage you to do is be vocal about the development you want. So if you want to do something and you can relate it back to how it's going to help the business, even if it's not directly within your role, but if you say, you know what, I want to go learn about AI and you need somebody to learn about it, I want to learn about it in this specific, column over here. And this is how I think it's going to help the business. I'm not going to guarantee, but I would bet you that the company's going to
nice.
say, okay, yeah, go do it. And then come back to us with a plan. So as an employee, I encourage you to be assertive about what you see are the opportunities and then ask for them because nobody's just going to come to you and say, hey, will you go do this for us, because they may not
No.
even be thinking of number one, the opportunity you're seeing, but number two, you for that opportunity. So put it out there.
Well, and I think perfect, absolute perfect point. And I want to take it back to our HR professionals saying to them, like, okay, I probably just scared the pants off of you when I mentioned that there was this company that like was like, we're gonna kill this HR department. But what this person said in the article is that HR was a process function. First of all, no, this is such a lack of understanding of what HR is actually about. And so, going to everything that Julie just said, set yourself out as a business partner. Set yourself out as someone who is learning, who's going to use the latest technology and can really make a difference for the company. That data that Julie was saying that she was like, oh no, I can't do that. That data is what is going to allow you as HR to really stand up and say, no, 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 this isn't about a process. This is about deliverables. And let us show you how we can help you attain some of these goals that you're trying to attain.
Mic drop.
You already had like three mic drops, but I didn't want to like get in there and say it because then it would, yeah. So that's like the fourth one of this episode. This was a good one,
Yeah.
if I
Well,
do
and
say so
I
myself.
and as you were talking, I came up with one of our future topics, which is helping HR professionals figure out how to position themselves as equal to the C-suite. Like they are leaders in the company, they are that critical. And a
Absolutely.
lot of times, because with your example that you shared, companies see HR as just a line item on the budget that is always in the negative. And
Hmm.
they see it as more of an administrative task. And there's so much more that you all do, and we know it. Good God, do we know it? So
Yeah,
we're gonna table that for a future episode, but we're gonna devote
I
an
love it.
episode to showing you how to make yourselves invaluable and showing the value that you bring to the organization. So more to come.
I'm excited about that one already. All right. So, just a couple of final thoughts here. When it comes to total rewards, let's talk about the why behind it really quick. It's the same why we've talked about how many times already. Attraction, which is how we got here in the first place.
Mhm.
Thank you, Bamboo HR and our visit from Kyler. Retention, one of Julie and I's favorite topics. But also engagement. We have gone over and given you guys, I think at least 4 or 5 different stats over the last couple of years that talks about how much money that you lose due to disengagement of your employees. And so remember that these processes that we share with you, the things that we're discussing, they're meant to interrelate and overlap because we want you to see how this works in totality. You cannot just pick and go, oh, there's this, there's that. It is really everything together. All of these things that we're talking about can lead to, Julie, you want to take over from here?
Sure. Reduced absenteeism, because if people are more engaged, then they are more likely to show up in the first
Oh,
place.
go figure.
Concept. And reduce turnover, which again, we know that there is a cost to turnover, and you can probably figure out what that is for your organization. And then there's also the time to hire that you have to deal with once somebody has left. Fewer accidents. So we talked about that at the beginning and how just a 22% reduction in accidents could result in a great deal of money retained by the company, and improve performance across the organization. Because again, if everybody is more engaged, then they're more likely to engage with each other, which means that they are more likely to produce in a collaborative manner that brings you greater ROI on your investments in them. So, my last mic drop right there.
Actually, Julie, that's perfect. What I was thinking about as you were talking is this whole idea of return on investment and us being human resources. I can't, I mean, right? I can't help but go back to everybody has met Deborah if you've been with us for a while. Deborah at one point was doing a job, and I won't say with whom or anything like that, but what she did for this company and for the employees just has always like hit me straight in all the feel good parts of my heart because she was a resource even though they may not have been able to pay, I mean, some of the stuff they paid for, but what she did is she really went out there and looked to see what was available to help employees. And that to me has always struck, and I've shared it with every single class. Like, you may not be able to afford to do certain programs. May not be able to afford to pay for your employees to attend things. That doesn't mean that you can't be a resource. Be a resource. Look into what your community offers. I've lived all over this country, north, south, east, and west, and I've never lived in a place where they didn't offer some sort of training, some sort of development, either at a free or no cost, low cost. Free and no cost are the same, I guess, huh? But there's always been options. I mean, heck, Julie and I even took a belly dancing class, right?
Hmm.
Remember?
Yep.
Now, of course, that has nothing to do with the workplace,
Yeah.
but the whole point is that the same organization, it was through a library that offered that. They also offered a lot of training tools. And so I think knowing where to find those tools, partnering with colleges, partnering with community colleges, partnering with high schools, partnering with your libraries, and really trying to figure out where you can get information to share with your employees, that's going to set you apart. Again, even if you don't have the money to do it, be a resource. And that's my final thought. And my wine is still delicious.
As is mine. I'm enjoying this much more than my choice from last week. So,
Lovely.
yeah. No, this is very, very nice. It is different than what I typically drink, but I like it a lot. So I would definitely buy that again. So,
Hmm.
um,
High
yeah,
praise.
I know. I know. Yeah. I don't know that I have any final thoughts that I haven't shared already, but just I think everything keeps coming back. You were just talking about it's human resources. I think everything keeps coming back, and this seems to be our theme of this season, is that we can't forget that we work with humans.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
and and at the base of it all, we have to continue to see each other as human and treat each other that way, with the compassion and the um I'm just going to say, and the love that that entails. So, it's not love in the sense
Here,
that you have
here.
to, right? You have to love everybody that you work with, or you have to um, show love like you should, though. We should always act in a loving capacity. And that is true even of our employees. So if somebody comes to you and says, I have this problem, you shouldn't be throwing up roadblocks. You should be trying to figure out how to help them, even if it's just, hey, I'm out of my element, but let me see what I can find. I'll get you some phone numbers, I'll, do whatever. That's part of the human resources. But outside of HR, we should all be doing that. Like, we should, if somebody comes to us and asks for help, our answer should be, how can I help? And if I don't know
Mhm.
the answer, how can I help you find the right person? And I think we've gotten really far away from that. I'm going way off
Mhm.
topic here. I'm just talking societally right now, but I feel like we've gotten away from that, where our initial inclination now is to slam the door in somebody's face because we don't know what their true intentions are. And I get that. And I get why we do that. But at the same time, that's not gonna fix it.
Mm-mm.
So
Nope.
I think that leading with compassion, leading with empathy, leading with the human side of us, right?
Yeah.
We talk about, and I'm sure we'll do an episode on it. I know we've talked about it before, but we have a feedback method that is the change method. And, C and H are have a conversation, and H is be human. Just
Huh.
remember
Go
that, like,
figure.
right, when you're talking to somebody about anything, just remember that they are a human being. And we have to treat that with the respect that it requires. That's
I
my
love it.
final thought.
Yep. Okay, so now you know that all I can think of is New Amsterdam, the show. Did you ever watch it? Where,
No.
oh man. So the lead guy is the same one who was in Blacklist.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So his thing the very, very first day was, how can I help? And I always just like that hit me straight in the heart. And then I had someone, I think I've talked about this on one of our other episodes, where one of the people that was in one of my training classes said, "Oh yeah, my thing is, how can I help you succeed today?" And I share that with every single class now, because I think that if we all proceed that way, it's a much different conversation than we would have otherwise. So
Yes, I love that. And I'm going to add to that because as you were talking, I was just thinking, like, because we learn from classes, like we're the teachers, but we learn from people all the time.
every single,
Um,
yep.
and I think that's a great way to wake up in the morning, is to say to yourself, what am I going to learn today? You
I love
know,
it.
and who am I going to learn it from? Because it might be the most unexpected person. And I think that's really cool. And on that note, just talking about people that you come into your life. So, my husband and I went out to dinner on Friday, and as we're sitting there, somebody comes over to the table, and it is Eric and Leo. So, shout out to Eric and Leo, my bankers. But Eric is a hardcore listener. He's a hardcore wino.
Hey, hey, what's up, buddy?
So I want to give a shout out to Eric and
Hi,
Leo. But they
Eric.
came over and they said hello.
Aw.
And it's just like one of those reminders that we meet people on our journey of life that we don't necessarily expect are going to stay in it or are going to be so important. And he's been, Eric and Leo, both of them have been an unexpected gift to me. So, again, just want to give them a shout out.
I love
And
that.
Yeah. And, hopefully they're listening to this particular episode and hear that. But we should start doing like, what was that radio show that was like Delilah at dark or something like that, where she would take
Yes,
requests? Hey, if you want to give a shout,
Delilah.
yes. If you want to give a shout out to somebody, email us at WHINE at monarchendeavorsllc.com, and we'll give shout outs at the end.
Oh my gosh. This is a new turn of events, and I'm so excited about it. I cannot even tell you.
All right. With that, we are going to end this episode. I'm sure you're all thanking your lucky stars at this point. But thank you for joining us again for an episode of Wine with HR. We hope you spread the word. You tell all your friends. You join us on Patreon. We are going to, by now, by the time you're hearing this, we will have unveiled a LinkedIn page. So that's really exciting. We've got our Pride merch. We've got our other merch. So we hope you have some fun with us, and we hope you join us again. So tune in wherever you get your podcasts, and cheers.
Cheers.